First contact. They weren't sleeping. They were just charging. You've got to be kidding me, Zixtal muttered, all four arms clicking in irritation. Another one. That makes 23 so far. According to my data, Cathar, their lead research specialist, stated, their bioluminescent patches pulsing, all with essentially the same message. Danger. Do not disturb the overly awake ones of the third planet. And variations of, seriously, we mean it. And this is not a drill, added Moo, the junior researcher, her tentacles wrapping around her datapad as she scrolled through their findings. Don't forget my personal favorite from the Mars ruins. Look, we're not joking. Those things are terrifying when they wake up cranky. The three alien researchers huddled in their environmental suits, surrounded by the sterile whiteness of Phobos' frozen surface. Their small research vessel hung in the void above them, its sensors continuing to map the entire asteroid belt for more ancient artifacts. So let me get this straight. Zixtal sighed, pacing back and forth and leaving precise geometric patterns in the frost. Multiple advanced civilizations, spanning what appears to be at least several million years, all left warnings about Earth, about the humans who have been in their electronic age for less than 2 centuries, and haven't even established a permanent presence beyond their own moon. Precisely, Cathar added helpfully. Exactly. Zixtal threw all four arms up in exasperation. It makes no sense. They're practically infants in terms of technological development. What could possibly be so dangerous about them that caused multiple Type 2 and 3 civilizations to just leave them alone? Moo's tentacles rippled thoughtfully. Well, there was that interesting bit in the Venus archive about them being mostly harmless while dormant. Yes, Cathar chittered, followed by 17 exclamation marks and what appears to be the equivalent of but purely quantum fluctuations. You do not want to see them when they're properly motivated. The linguistic analysis suggests the author was experiencing severe anxiety while carving that particular warning. And yet here we are, Zixtal sighed, about to completely ignore multiple dire warnings from civilizations far more advanced than our own just because we're curious. There was a moment of silence as they all contemplated this fact. We're definitely going to wake them up, aren't we? Moo asked, not really needing an answer. Oh, absolutely, Cathar confirmed cheerfully. The Council of Sciences is practically salivating over the potential research opportunities. They've already approved the contact mission. Well, Zixtal said, checking the atmosphere readings on their suit for the 100th time. At least we'll finally find out what all the fuss is about. Assuming we survive long enough to document it, Moo added helpfully. The three researchers made their way back to their ship, leaving behind yet another ancient warning in the endless night of the solar system's edge. As they prepared for the journey to Earth, none of them noticed the small text carved beneath the main warning, written in what would one day be identified as ancient proxim. Please, if you're dumb enough to ignore this warning, at least don't mention anything about their coffee supplies being limited. We lost 3 star systems that way. The marriage of science and Chao's first contact team's initial approach to Earth was cautious, methodical, and by all scientific standards, completely textbook. They positioned themselves just beyond lunar orbit, broadcasting the standard peaceful contact protocol calls on all known frequencies. Their sensors were primed to capture every possible detail about humanity's response. What they got instead was a series of accelerating, enthusiastic messages from something called Twitter and Reddit, countless amateur astronomical photographs, and what appears to be millions of humans instantly creating something called memes about the situation. Are they making jokes about first contact? Zixtal asked incredulously, watching the data stream in. I believe they are, Cathar confirmed, their bioluminescence flickering in confusion. And if I'm interpreting this correctly, at least 30% of their population is suggesting we come down and fight them. Earl. What's Earl? Moo asked, her tentacles tangled in confusion. In real life, supplied their AI translator, though I should note that many of these challenges appear to be non-serious in nature, they seem to be engaged in something called shitposting. No, Zixtal admonished the AI. That's the actual term. I'm also detecting widely use of something called capipista, involving various scenarios where humans defeat alien invaders through improbable means. Many of them involve something called a Florida man. This is not how first contact is supposed to go. Zixtal watched as humans across the planet seemed to alternate between genuine scientific curiosity and creating elaborate jokes about the situation. Where's the panic? The religious upheaval? The existential crisis about humanity's place in the universe? Oh, those are happening too, Cathar noted, scanning through more data. They're just being processed primarily through humor and something called viral videos. Speaking of which, several humans are already attempting to sell t-shirts with our ship's image on them. Merchandising rights already? Momo exclaimed, her chromatophores flashing with delight. You have to admire their entrepreneurial spirit. Before anyone could respond, a new message came through. This one, official looking, and from something called the United Nations Security Council. Finally, Zixtal sobbed with relief. Some proper diplomatic contact. The message was indeed more formal, welcoming them to Earth, and suggesting a meeting with world leaders. It was the postscript that gave them pause. Please, if you're planning any funny business, please be advised that humanity has jointly watched every alien invasion movie ever made, and has extensive plans for dealing with scenarios ranging from Independence Day to Mars attacks. We're also pretty sure we can get Jeff Goldblum on the phone if needed. What's a Jeff Goldblum? Cathar asked. According to my database search, the AI replied, he's an actor, known for, among other things, helping defeat alien invasions with a laptop computer running something called Windows 95. There was a moment of silence on the bridge. The ancient warnings are starting to make more sense, Moe observed quietly. When absurdity becomes power, actual landing ceremony was scheduled for 3 days later, giving them time to prepare and the first contact team time to study human protocols. What they discovered during those 3 days did nothing to calm their growing concerns. They've been fighting each other constantly for their entire recorded history, Zixtal reported during their final briefing, and yet somehow they've managed to advance their technology at an exponential rate while fighting. Most species either destroy themselves or focus on peace before achieving significant development. Their technological development is concerningly advanced and remarkably primitive, Cathar added. Oh, and here's a fun fact, Mo'o added, her tentacles wiggling with what might have been either amusement or anxiety. They invented nuclear weapons before they invented wheeled luggage. Think about that priority order for a moment. They all did. It wasn't comforting. Perhaps we should reconsider this mission? Zixtal suggested. Not for the first time. Too late, Cathar interrupted, pointing at their sensors. We're getting thousands of small aircraft approaching our position. They appear to be civilian vehicles. Indeed, the airspace around their designated landing zone was filled with everything from news helicopters to amateur drones, all trying to get the best possible view of the historic moment. They're treating this like a sporting event, Moa observed, watching the crowds gathering below. There are people tailgating in the designated safety zone. What's tailgating? Zixtal asked. According to my research, it's a human tradition involving significant cooking, lots of parking, and consuming fermented beverages before events, the AI quipped helpfully. They're having a party? Zixtal translated. They're having a party to celebrate meeting potentially dangerous aliens, Mo'o clarified. To be fair, Oo noted, they appear to have parties for everything. I found records of humans celebrating something called a Super Bowl that involves gathering in large groups to watch other humans chase an oddly shaped ball while consuming vast quantities of something called 7-layer dip. Before anyone could question what 7-layer dip might be, their sensors registered a new development on the ground. The gathered crowd had spontaneously begun singing something called The Final Countdown by Europe. Europe? Zixtal asked hopefully. One of their governing bodies? A musical group, the AI corrected. From Sweden, which is in Europe, but isn't Europe itself. Human geography is complicated. Everything about them is complicated, Cathar chittered, watching as more humans arrived. Many carried signs with messages ranging from "Welcome to Earth" to "We'll trade sister for alien technology," and "Aliens are just spicy angels." Well, Zixtal finally said. Shall we make history? Or possibly become part of an elaborate human joke? Both. Momo added. Definitely both, Cathar decided as they began their landing sequence. The unforeseen encounter, the actual moment of first contact, was simultaneously exactly what they expected and nothing like they had prepared for. Yes, there were the official delegations from various governments, the scientific teams ready with their instruments, and the military forces maintaining a respectful but obvious presence. But there was also the crowd of civilians who, despite multiple warnings and security cordons, had managed to get close enough to hold up their phones, which the first contact team had quickly learned were somehow simultaneously communicating devices, cameras, entertainment centers, and sources of something called dank memes. Zixtal led their team down the landing ramp, all of them dressed in their most formal diplomatic attire. They had studied human customs extensively during their 3 days of preparation, and were determined to make a good first impression. What they hadn't prepared for was the human in the inflatable T-Rex costume, who somehow made it past security just as they reached the bottom of the ramp. "Welcome to Earth," the costumed human bellowed, arms waving wildly. "We have dogs and pizza, and we'll probably try to pet you." The security teams finally caught up and gently, but firmly led the enthusiastic welcome party away, but not before they managed to throw what appeared to be a plush toy in the shape of an alien holding a sign saying "Oh" at the startled first contact team. "Is this normal?" Zixtal whispered to their AI translator. "For humans, based on my analysis of their historical events, yes, actually. This is remarkably on brand for them," the AI replied. The official ceremony welcoming went more or less according to protocol. Then, though the first contact team couldn't help but notice that several of the world leaders seemed to be trying very hard not to laugh at the T-Rex incident. On behalf of humanity, the Unsecretary General began. "We welcome you to Earth. We hope this will be the beginning of a peaceful and productive relationship between our peoples. We come in peace," Zixtal responded with the carefully practiced phrase, "and seek to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." "Wonderful," the Secretary General replied. "We have prepared a series of cultural exchange events and scientific discussions. But first, we thought you might enjoy experiencing some human hospitality. We've prepared a small reception." "A party?" Cathar whispered to Momo. "They're throwing us a party," Momo whispered back. "Did you expect anything else at this point?" The reception turned out to be both formal and surprisingly casual, with diplomatic discussions happening alongside what appeared to be an impromptu dance contest after someone introduced the alien visitors to something called the cha-cha slide. "Your species is fascinating," Zixtal told one of the human scientists later, after they had been convinced to try something called pizza, which they had to admit was remarkably good. "You've faced millions of global challenges, yet you maintain this incredible capacity for joy and celebration." "Oh, that's because we're all slightly insane," the scientist replied cheerfully. "Did you know we used to think radioactive elements were healthy? We put them in everything from watch faces to medicine. We literally had to learn the hard way that glows in the dark wasn't a good thing." "That's horrifying," Zixtal said. "Yeah, we do that a lot," the scientist agreed. "Find something new, immediately try to either eat it, fight it, or turn it into a consumer product. Sometimes, all three. But hey, we're still here. And now, we're having pizza with aliens. Speaking of which, wants to try it with pineapple? It's controversially delicious." Before Zixtal could respond, there was a commotion near the buffet table. Cathar had discovered coffee. "This is amazing," the normally reserved researcher announced anyone who would listen, their bioluminescent patches practically strobing with excitement. "You just drink this whenever you want?" "Oh no," Olo exclaimed, watching as Cathar accepted their fourth cup. "Should we stop them?" "Probably," Zixtal agreed, "but I'm kind of curious to see what happens." What happened turned out to be Cathar spending the next 2 hours explaining their entire theory of quantum mechanics to increasingly amused human scientists, using only interpretive dance and elaborate hand gestures. Your friend seems to be enjoying themselves, the human scientist observed, watching as Cathar attempted to demonstrate string theory using a party streamer and 3 appetizers. Yes, Zixtal agreed. Though I'm starting to understand some of those ancient warnings about your beverages. Oh, that's nothing, the scientist laughed. Wait until they try energy drinks. The unstoppable Legicide following weeks were a blur of diplomatic meetings, scientific exchanges, and what the humans called cultural integration. The first contact team learned several important things during this time. 1. Humans had an unprecedented ability to adapt to new situations, mainly by making jokes about them. 2. Despite all their warnings about taking things slowly, humans were already designing t-shirts with Cathar's face on them from the infamous coffee incident, with slogans like, "Mood before space coffee," and "Aliens need their space Java too." 3. Most importantly, they learned why all those ancient civilizations had left warnings about not waking humanity up. It wasn't because humans were particularly warlike, though they were. It wasn't because they were technologically dangerous, though they definitely were, in an endearingly haphazard way. No, it was because once humanity knew for certain they weren't alone in the universe, they became unstoppable. Within 6 months of first contact, humans had developed 15 different universal translator apps, 3 of which actually worked. Started an interplanetary food truck business. Convinced Cathar to start a TikTok channel about alien science, it went viral. Begun work on faster-than-light travel, mostly out of spite, because someone on Twitter said it was impossible. Created at least 6 new sports combining alien and human athletic traditions. Established the first interstellar meme exchange program. Started planning the first human-alien K-pop group. They're not sleeping giants, Zixtal realized one day, watching as humanity enthusiastically embraced their place in the galactic community with all the subtlety of a supernova. They were never sleeping, they were just waiting for a reason to really get started. Is that good or bad? Moho asked, her tentacles busy helping her craft the perfect response to something called a Reddit thread about alien cuisine. Both, Cathar suggested, still slightly buzzing from their latest coffee experiment. Neither does it matter. They're making me try something called a Monster energy drink next week. Those ancient civilizations didn't warn us about humanity being dangerous, Zixtal continued, ignoring Cathar's caffeine-fueled enthusiasm. They were warning us about humanity being unstoppable once they had a goal. They were warning us that once humans knew what was possible, they'd rewrite the rules of the possible just to see if they could. And because it would make a good TikTok, Moho added. Especially because it would make a good TikTok, Zixtal agreed. The truth of this became even more apparent in the months that followed. Humanity's response to learning about various alien technologies wasn't the expected awe or intimidation. It was more along the lines of, "Oh, cool. We were working on something like that. Want to collaborate?" They approached everything with the same mixture of scientific curiosity and irreverent enthusiasm. When shown advanced alien quantum computers, they immediately started working on ways to play Doom on them. When introduced to sophisticated alien meditation techniques, they created space yoga fusion classes. Their response to learning about alien cuisine was to immediately start a series of interstellar food fusion restaurants, leading to dishes like quantum quesadillas and nebula noodles. But perhaps most terrifyingly of all, they started solving problems that had stumped other civilizations for millennia. Not because they were smarter, but because they simply didn't know what was supposed to be impossible. Wait, you're saying you can't teleport because of the quantum uncertainty principle? A human physicist asked during one exchange. Have you tried just ignoring it? That's not how physics works. Cathar had protested. Yeah, that's what they said about heavier than air flight. The physicist replied with a shrug. We did it anyway. Here, look at these calculations I did on a napkin during lunch. 6 months later, the first human-alien joint research team successfully teleported a sandwich. It wasn't particularly efficient, and the sandwich arrived slightly toasted, but as one human researcher noted, hey, free toasting. That's just value added. The first contact team found themselves writing their own warning, to be added to the others scattered throughout the solar system. But unlike the others, theirs read differently. Warning to future explorers. The beings of the third planet are awake now. They have dogs and pizza and TikTok and an unlimited supply of coffee. They will absolutely try to pet you, feed you, teach you their dances, and solve your civilization's greatest scientific challenges using methods that shouldn't work, but somehow do anyway. They will make memes about your most serious cultural traditions and turn your ancient mysteries into trending hashtags. And worst of all, you're probably going to love it. Peas. Yes, they're still putting pineapple on pizza. No, they won't stop. We've tried. As Zixtal finished carving the warning into a particularly picturesque asteroid, they couldn't help but smile. The civilizations had been right to leave warnings, but they'd been wrong about one crucial thing. Humanity wasn't a threat to be avoided. They were a force of chaos and creativity to be embraced, even if that embrace came with a side of bad puns and viral videos. Hey, Zixtal, Cathar called from their ship. The humans want to know if we're up for something called karaoke night. They say it's a crucial diplomatic tradition. Is it really? Zixtal asked suspiciously. Probably not, Momo replied, her tentacles already styling themselves for the occasion. But it's going to be fun anyway. And that, perhaps, was humanity's greatest weapon all along. Not their technology, or their determination, or even their ability to adapt, but their unshakable conviction that every moment, even first contact with alien civilizations, was an opportunity to have fun, make friends, and possibly create some really great content for their social media followers. As Zixtal followed their friends back to the ship, they made a mental note to update their report to the Council of Sciences. The report would read simply, "The ancient warnings were right. Humanity changes everything they touch. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what the galaxy needed all along." They paused, then added a postscript. "Also, we're going to need more coffee. Much more coffee." The never-ending finaleers later, when new alien species discovered the warnings about Earth, they found them much changed. The dire warnings of old were still there, but they were now accompanied by tourist reviews, restaurant recommendations, and enthusiastic testimonials about humanity's hospitality. And if those new visitors looked carefully, they might notice something else. The galaxy was a lot more interesting, a lot more connected, and a lot more fun than it had been before humanity woke up and joined the party. As for the first contact team, Cathar's TikTok channel hit 1 billion followers across 3 galaxies. Momo opened the first combination alien-human fusion restaurant in space, specializing in quantum comfort food. And Zixtal wrote a best-selling book titled How to Train Your Human. They will actually train you instead, but that's okay. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the ancient civilizations that left those original warnings were probably watching it all unfold, shaking their heads in amused disbelief as humanity did exactly what they'd feared, changed everything, just not in the way anyone had expected. 5 years later, and that's how humans revolutionize galactic transportation, by applying the principles of yeet, Cathar explained to their utterly baffled audience at the annual Galactic Sciences Conference. Their bioluminescent patches were pulsing with barely contained excitement, fueled by their 6th espresso of the morning. In the audience, Zixtal buried their face in all 4 hands, while Momo's tentacles wiggled with suppressed laughter. After 5 years of regular exposure to humans, they'd just gotten used to this sort of thing. But that violates at least 3 fundamental laws of physics, protested one of the older scientists, their crystalline structure vibrating with indignation. Yeah, agreed the human engineer, standing next to Cathar on stage, casually sipping from a cup that read, "Math is just spicy philosophy." That's what makes it fun. Want to see the TikTok where we figured it out? The conference hall erupted into chaos, which was pretty much standard for any presentation involving human scientific methods these days. Later, during the reception, because humans had successfully convinced the galactic community that all scientific conferences needed an after-party, Zixtal found themselves cornered by a group of newly arrived alien researchers. "Is it true?" one of them asked, their atmospheric membrane quivering with curiosity. "Did humans really solve the Gal equation by, what's the term, vibing with it?" Sort of, Zixtal admitted, though to be fair, they also used something called interpretive dance and a truly concerning amount of energy drinks. The solution came to them at 3 o'clock a.m. while they were trying to teach our quantum computers to run something called Minecraft. But it worked. It did, Zixtal agreed. That's the thing about humans. Their methods seem insane, but they get results. Last week, they solved a millennia-old mathematics proof while trying to optimize their pizza delivery routes. Across the room, Moo was holding court at her newest restaurant, Branch, explaining to a fascinated group of aliens how she'd combine traditional Proxim cuisine with something humans called comfort food. The secret, she was saying, her tentacles expertly plating what looked like a cosmic hybrid of mac and cheese and quantum-shifted molecular gastronomy, is not thinking too hard about why it shouldn't work. That's what I learned from humans. Sometimes you just have to try something ridiculous and see what happens. Concurrently, Cathar's latest TikTok was going viral across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. It featured them explaining quantum entanglement using only cat memes and interpretive dance, with a soundtrack that somehow merged classical music with something humans called dubstep. The comment section was filled with both serious scientific discourse and an unprecedented number of Space Cat Go Bar variations. You know what the real irony is? Zixtal mused to their original First Contact team as they watched the conference descend into what humans would call organized chaos. Those ancient warnings about not waking humanity, they're still finding new ones. And now, humans are treating it like a galactic scavenger hunt. I heard they're making a reality show about it, Moo added. Last week, they found one that just said, "Look, we tried to tell you," and turned it into a meme format. Speaking of shows, Cathar interjected, their patches still flickering with caffeine-induced enthusiasm. Have you seen the latest ratings for So You Think You Can Dance? Intergalactic Edition? The episode where that Betelgeusian tried to breakdance was trending for weeks. Before anyone could respond, there was a commotion at the conference center's main entrance. A new species had arrived for first contact, looking appropriately nervous about meeting the galactic community. And there were the humans, already heading over with welcome bags that probably contained an unholy mixture of snacks from at least 12 different planets, along with what appeared to be custom-made "Welcome to the Galaxy" t-shirts. So, should we warn them? Moo wondered, watching as the newcomers were swept up in humanity's enthusiastic welcome wagon. About what? Cathar asked. The fact that humans will immediately try to teach them their TikTok dances? That they'll probably have a fusion restaurant featuring their cuisine within a week? That someone will definitely try to pet them, Moo clarified. All of the above, Zixtal gasped. But also about the fact that 5 years from now, they'll probably be standing right where we are, watching it happen to someone else, and wondering how their life turned into this beautiful chaos. They watched as the new species was introduced to something called a conga line, which had somehow become a standard diplomatic practice ever since humans joined the galactic community. You know, Oo observed, her tentacles swaying thoughtfully. Maybe those ancient civilizations didn't leave because they were afraid of humanity. Oh, Zixtal prompted. Maybe they left because they knew that once it woke up and joined the galaxy, nothing would ever be the same. And they wanted to give us all the joy of discovering that for ourselves. That's surprisingly profound, Cathar noted. Also, who wants to help me teach the newcomers about karaoke? I've got Space Oddity queued up and ready to go. As their friend bounced off to spread more human-inspired chaos, Zixtal and Moo shared a knowing look. The galaxy had indeed changed in ways no one could have predicted. It was louder now, messier, more chaotic, and infinitely more interesting. And they wouldn't have it any other way. Final transmission from the First Contact team to the Council of Sciences regarding the ancient warnings about Earth. After 5 years of close observation and interaction, we can definitively say that all previous assessments were simultaneously completely right and entirely wrong. Humanity isn't a sleeping giant to be feared. They're more like a caffeinated toddler with a physics degree and an unshakable belief that friendship can solve any problem. And somehow, against all logic and reason, they keep proving themselves right. Peace. We're going to need to update the galactic standard for possible, again. Humans found another loophole in physics while trying to optimize their video streaming services. PPZ yes. Qatar is still making TikToks. No, we can't stop them at this point. They're too powerful. PPP's Moo's latest fusion dish somehow achieved sentience. The humans immediately adopted it and named it Kevin. Kevin is now pursuing a degree in theoretical physics. End report.